Welcome to Expat Experts. Today, we are diving into a fascinating and often overlooked side of the expat life, parenting abroad. Our guest is Angela Vitiello, founder of the Expat Parenting Collective, leadership consultant, and a true global citizen. Originally from the suburbs of New York City, Angela's expat journey has taken her to Korea, Netherlands, and finally settling down with her family in Belgium. We explore the challenges of raising kids, adapting to cultures, and helping expat families navigate the complex realities of life abroad. Before we start with the episode, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to stay tuned with all the episodes of the podcast. And now, sit back, relax, and let's explore this expat experience together. So, welcome, Angela. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very happy to have you here in Expat Experts.
Thank you.
Where are you actually right now? That's something that we were just talking a bit, but I didn't ask you before.
Yes, I'm in Brussels, in Belgium.
Nice. But
Yeah.
you are not originally from Brussels, so
No, I'm not.
You're still an expat, let's say like this. So maybe we start
Exactly.
from that. Where are you originally from?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the New York City area in the US, and I lived there until I was 30. I left in 2010. So yeah, majority of my life was spent in the United States in the New York City area.
Nice. So you decided to leave. Why exactly? Like, where was the first move? Maybe you can walk through, because I know that you lived in
Yeah.
Asia, Pacific, Europe, Middle East even. So it's very random points in the map. What was the main reason for moving?
So it's a great question. For me, it wasn't really at first a desire to be like, I need to explore the world. I was working as a high school history teacher, and in 2010, the economic downturn, dare I say, handed me a plate of opportunity. I could see it as that I lost my job, but what I saw it as, I can find a different way. And when I lost my job, I realized I could struggle and work multiple jobs because in New York, you need a lot to live comfortably. So I decided to look at other options. And out of all the options, I looked at things in regards to a similar salary that could pay the bills that I had back home, plus safety. And then I ended up choosing Seoul, or actually at that point it was Incheon, which is about 45 minutes away from Seoul in South Korea. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was working there as an educator, and I ended up switching to universities, and I worked as a university professor for a while as well. Spent 3.5 years there, and then I moved to Amsterdam. And while I was in Amsterdam, no, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. In South Korea, I just kind of felt after a certain period of time that life didn't look the way that I wanted it to be. I really enjoyed my time there, but I felt innately like I wanted to settle down, and I didn't feel like that was going to happen there. It was a very easy life, but it just seemed a bit too much like an extension of my 20s and not really something that I saw myself in forever. So yeah, I moved to Amsterdam because a friend of mine told me that Americans could start their own business with a reasonably small deposit. So I started a consulting business, an educational consulting business there, which was focused on helping people in the Netherlands to become better communicators. And so that's how I got my way in. And I lived there from 2014 to 2018. And during that time, I met my husband. And in 2018, we ended up moving to Brussels, Belgium, because my husband got an opportunity working in the capital of the EU.
I mean, it's not that big of a change. I mean, between Amsterdam and Brussels, the distance is more reasonable, let's say like this. But the jump from United States to Korea, it's going to the other part of the world and then going back to Amsterdam. there is not only that, but I suppose languages at some point of time in Korea you teach in English, or did you learn
Yeah.
Korean for for teaching?
No, I taught in English. I was actually teaching English at
Okay.
a training center, teaching also educators to teach English, more like pedagogy. And then after that, I taught English and business. I also have a background in business at the university. And yeah, you needed to learn some basics in Korea for sure. It was a place where everyone's taught English from a young age. And in fact,
Mm.
many of the older generation also spoke some English because of the remnants after the Korean War and the effects of English on the Korean language, if I can generalize it in that way. Um, yeah, so I did need to learn some, but I definitely was not nearly be able to even have a conversation. It was really survival Korean. I had working hours that really just prevented that from being able to happen, for me to take a class and really dive deep into the language.
Mm.
But it's fascinating. Like breaking the Hangul character set is almost like cracking a code. It's just, it opens up a part of your mind that you're just proud of and just also amazed at.
But also complex, I suppose. It's not as easy as going to any other Latin-based language or Anglo-Saxonic-based language.
But what's fascinating about Hangul is that they changed. It used to be the similar character set to Chinese, but
Mm.
they changed it, and Hangul is only 26 characters, if I remember correctly. So it's
Yeah.
actually quite easy to grasp on. The only problem is that the character combinations can mean different words when in it's just almost mind blowing as like a couple character sets can mean like three different things. So it was a bit complex in that way. But to be able to understand what you're reading and to be able to understand in order to, for example, tell a taxi cab driver, hey, I'm here, or where you want to go, or what to order in a restaurant, there was one could learn enough in that way to be able to live one's life.
Cool. I mean, you said that you did the move already, like being an adult. It wasn't a move that it was like, I don't know, early 20s, you go into Erasmus and then you decide you find a country. So you were already having, I mean, of course, you had a moment of change of life, losing the job and then finding opportunities. It's always a changer or a big change. But how was it like the adaptation on a absolutely cultural different countries from coming from United States to going to South Korea in that sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. At first, I definitely had some homesickness for sure. I think at first I was just amazed at how different the world was. I feel like Americans are a bit sheltered, and if I could go so far to also say a bit brainwashed, in the essence that we have such a large country, and so like everything that we have is enough and it's big enough. And once I stepped out of that, I was just really blown away. But also missed the creature comforts of back home. I think that's totally normal. And I was very lucky that I knew two people in Korea, one who worked in Daegu at the university and another one who was in the US Air Force. Um, and it was really a beautiful way to have like one foot in the US with my friends that are both American there, but also one foot in South Korea at the same time. And I also was very held by a very international team at the training center I first went to, which was filled with people from Canada, South Africa, US, like really a diverse team. And it was just a really comforting kind of space because we all were so diverse, but all expats and all non-Korean speakers or having much connection. I say much connection because there were two Korean Americans on the team.
Mm.
But yeah, it was really a beautiful experience to just kind of go through that and to observe myself through that. And I think there were times where I was like, "Well, I don't know if I can do this," but I think I just continued one day at a time with curiosity and just trying to see what I could uncover. And those 3.5 years that I spent there, I think I spent longer than I thought I would, but at the same time, I was able to travel so much. And it was just such a great opportunity. I think during that time, I probably traveled to like 30 different countries.
That's so
And
cool. I mean, that's
yeah,
something that I always like miss. And maybe as a European, you have this concept, not like you are from Europe and then traveling around European countries, especially since Schengen, it makes it easy for us internally, let's say like this.
Yeah.
For other countries with who doesn't have an agreement with Schengen, that's getting a Schengen visa. It's a nightmare probably. But
Mm.
um, at the moment of like saying, okay, you start counting countries and you say, okay, yeah, but for us it's normal. No, you jump from one country to another in a short space, and in Asia that also kind of can happen
Yeah.
relatively easy. But if you are not there permanently doing the jump from one country to another, it's different. No, you do this one traveling one time and going back home.
Yeah.
While you are there, it's incredible, I suppose. Like you need to discover so many different ways of doing, so many countries, so many different experiences. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, one that really sticks out to me was like just discovering things, just like little things, like when you go to Cambodia, they use American dollars. I remember just
I know.
randomly bumping in that, like, I'm going to go to Cambodia when I'm traveling through Southeast Asia. And it's like, okay, well, keep in mind this and that. And it's like, what? So you really have to do your research. It's not only that you should learn how to say please, thank you, where is the bathroom in the local language, hello, goodbye. But also these little things about getting your visa and what do you need to enter and what kind of currency would you, because in some places maybe you don't have ATMs, but yeah, this was almost 15 years ago, 16 years ago. So we're looking not at a different time, but somewhat. So there are things that we still need to look into to understand to be able to make the process as smooth as it could be.
Yeah, makes sense. What about the teaching there? Like you did teach Korean students mainly,
Yeah.
or how
Mm.
was this? Is it very different from teaching in United States or in anywhere else?
Yeah, because of Confucian values, teachers are like kind of treated with a respect that I would say is much higher than what I've seen in European and or well, I'm generalizing here because I haven't taught in every European country, nor have I taught in every US state, but it's much higher that they're literally treated to a different respect level. Confucian values is huge. It's a huge kind of part of their being. So, of course, they're curious to want to get to know you because you're not their standard English teacher or the English teachers that they're used to, or the business teachers that they're used to. But at the same time, there is a level of respect that I think most Westerners will be very surprised. Um, yeah, they look up to them. And to, I would say, almost a detriment because the ability to ask questions is almost blocked because it's just like this
Mm,
person I should be showing so much respect to, when in the grand scheme of things, if the respect blocks creativity and curiosity and the drive for critical thinking or whatever it may be, and it's just a blind acceptance, that's where things kind of go from, okay, we want to be respectful to, okay, how is this impacting my learning?
yeah, it's following a little bit, not like a ship without a own mind. Okay, I guess that's very curious. I mean, it's also like a balance between respect and like having organized classrooms and having your critical mind in place also. So cool. That's that's a very interesting point actually.
Hmm.
Um, what about the moment of going back to Western country, let's say like this? Like, did you have a reverse culture shock when you arrived to Amsterdam, or?
I don't think so. I actually felt, well, there's two ways of thinking about this. I felt very held by the Randstad, which is the area of North Holland to South Holland. So if we draw a generalization from Amsterdam to The Hague to Rotterdam, because they have a very direct and upfront way of communicating and being, that is very similar to the way New Yorkers present themselves, their character, their
Okay.
personality. So I felt very held by that. And I think I mean, most summers when I was in Korea, I traveled Europe quite a bit because I was curious. My mom's side of the family is mainly Swedish and Dutch. My dad's side of the family is 100% Italian. So I was very curious about traveling a bit and finding out more about my heritage and where my family comes from. Um, but I think I was just really excited about being closer to the norms and the values and the way of life that was something that was similar to me. So interestingly enough, I did not have a reverse culture shock, but I imagine if I would have returned back to New York, it would have been a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. When does the idea of creating a consultancy company come in that? Because it's a switch on your career, and it's a switch on what you were doing until now. In which moment you decided, I mean, I suppose it has touch points between like teaching things and consulting, or like doing the job that you are doing now. Also, I think that it's also related to that. How
Yeah.
did it happen, the click?
So before I went into education and became a high school history teacher, I did have a background in business. I spent my first 6 years out of university in the business field. So I did have some business background. And the consultancy was more, it was a consultancy, but it was also the ability to facilitate. It was also the ability to create and to formulate programs. And it, I would say, was born out of the idea of what most immigrant stories, or yeah, I'm going to say immigrant stories, in which people have to create something in order to stay. So what I did was I used my ability, or shall I say, the fortune that life has given me to be a native English speaker, and the fact that I have an MBA and a master's in education, and I just kind of molded them all together. And I guess my creativity in that moment was like, this is going to be a good idea, and I'm going to try. And it was actually incredibly successful. I was, based on the visa that I had, I could not hire other people. Um, and due to that, I was at sometimes had a full book of business to where I was actually taking clients for the next quarter or the quarter after that. So, I mean, Dutch people can speak English very well. And of course, in the area of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, you have also a lot of expats as well, and that are from all over the world. And what I found is that people come to Amsterdam for what it's known for, but not all of them are great communicators in English. They can get by, but also they don't know Dutch either. So it's like, which one can I perfect faster? Um, so yeah, I had a great opportunity to help people from all over the world, from Japan and Vietnam to the Netherlands and Portugal, and helping them to be better communicators, presenters, and writers. And it was really great. I got to meet a lot of amazing people.
Nice. Was it relatively more focused on business then, or like in a business environment communication, or globally in life? Let's say like this.
It ran the gamut, really. I mean, I was actually working consultancy in a couple different architectural firms, helping people to be able to describe the spaces that they're creating and to present them, as well as it could be let's say one of my clients was an Italian business owner who came to Amsterdam for a few months, and he had owned like a yacht that he took out tourists to go fishing on. Like, so really run the gamut of different people and different possibilities, and just taking the opportunity to improve their English skills.
Nice. I mean, I think I need to also talk a little bit, and I'm curious about when did the Expat Parenting Collective come into it, because at the end we got in contact due to that, and then and
Hmm.
you contacted me through it, and I find it a fascinating project. Let's say, like, I mean, I don't have children, but I interviewed a lot of parents, and I see some of the struggle that it means being a parent while being an expat. And
Yeah.
I first of all, like, first, let's start from the beginning. Where this what inspired you to create the Expat Parenting Collective, and when was the moment that you realized, oh, this is kind of a support that it's missing in this circle of our world?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. So in 2018, when my husband got the opportunity to go work in Brussels, to move our family to Brussels, I was 5 months pregnant. And I had to create what I close down everything I had in the Netherlands and reopen everything, or create everything anew in Brussels. Um, and I don't think I realized how complicated it was going to be. First off, the two cultures are really different. But on top of that, that I didn't speak more than just traveler's French. And on top of that, there's just so much that we don't realize that goes into raising a family abroad. So the reason why I created it is that I've lived it and continue to do so. And through all the different struggles that occurred, from the isolation, from the having no support, and the exhaustion of trying to balance it all, um, what people don't realize about raising third culture kids, partnerships and how they're stretched thin, um, due to the expat life. I mean, I think that so many of us, social media paints expat life to be this beautiful experience in which everyone's, going to amazing beaches and um, enjoying cafes all the time and all the rest of this stuff. But it's really a challenging life, and it can be beautiful if you have the tools and you know what to expect. But if you don't, it can be really, really tough. And so at a certain point, I realized I can't be the only one who's struggling with this. And that's when the Expat Parenting Collective was born. And it'll be 2 years in November.
Nice. That's very
Yeah.
good. So it's a project that was already created in Brussels then.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I interviewed Caro some episodes ago, like it's last season actually. Woman from UK, it's Carol Hallett Mobs, who has this expat child, also like trying to help parents and with their children and living abroad, and we talk about it, and I really find it a super interesting topic. Like it's a matter of like finding yourself, and I can kind of like empathize with a part of the expat, but I really, and when I picture myself also, if it ever comes to have kids or whatever, and my partner is German, I'm from Barcelona, we live in another third country, so all the questions that raise inside of that are so scary. So yeah, it makes sense, and I don't think there is a lot of information around it. It is a niche of market probably.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going? Like, what is what is your base of work right now? Like, how are you working with your clients? What is the job that you're doing with this?
Yeah. So there are 4 different ways in which I work with clients, and then I do other things on the side, like webinars and facilitate different workshops. But there's one-on-one coaching, which a lot of people will come to me, for example, let's say the example that you just gave, right? I'm from one country, my partner's from another, and we live in a third culture. We don't parent the same way. We don't understand how the other person parents. And our local culture is telling us, by feedback from the locals, that we're not doing things in the way that they want to. Please help us. This is a very common one, because I don't think people realize that two people from the same country parent in different ways. If you get two people from totally different cultures, in which many different cultures are embracing these things in totally different ways, um, it can be very challenging, not only for the parents, but also for the children. When you can imagine that one parent is saying, like, you can do it, go get messy, go jump in the puddles, go climb up the whatever it may be at the playground. And the other one's like, no, don't do it. Don't get your hands dirty. Don't go near this puddle. Don't try. I'm going to do it for you. So it's complex, and it's layered, and it's multifaceted, and at the same time it can be so beautiful, if you learn how to embrace it, how to hold it. And I'm sure that there's a lot of thoughts in all of what I just shared, so I'll leave a moment there because there's quite a bit of content in what I just said about that. Any questions on the what I just example I gave?
Sure.
Or comments?
Thousands. Like the thing is that I don't know that the most common struggles with expat parenting, I suppose it's a shock of cultures, but there is also like hidden ones. No, there is things that probably the parents that come to you are not willing to talk about it also. So probably
Mm-hmm.
the conflicts about, oh, I do things like that, or I do things like that because my culture brings me to do that,
Hmm.
how do you also like pull this information that may be relevant and that they don't want to share? No, they probably
Hmm.
because you grow up like that, so maybe you don't want to accept that your way is the not the best way of doing it either, you know.
That's such a beautiful question. And that's something I also address in two different programs, the one-on-one coaching, because when couples come, you need to dig deep and you need to understand certain things. But also in the program that we have called the Empowered Expat Parent, we need to start with couples and understand. And if it's best done if you do it before you have children than after, but it's also possible after. It just gets a little bit more complex. But to understand how you were parented as a child and how you want to parent your kids. So, 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 so important to understand your partner and the whys behind what they do as a parent. And I don't think we realize this, but one of the struggles that I had when I first had my daughter was I felt uncomfortable because all the ways in which I was parented were downloaded into me. Like I almost kind of felt like I didn't have a choice, even though I knew I didn't want to do things in that way.
Mm.
Where a lot of people don't realize that's maybe not the exact situation happens, but there is no guidebook to parenting. We learn how to be a parent by observing how we were raised, how our parents parented. And if we are lucky to have other couples around us in which we saw them parent their kids, other ways too. But not many people are that lucky to be able to see something on a daily basis in such close way. Um, so it's necessary to do that and to really to dig deep to understand those different things. And another thing that I do with couples and also individuals, it's really, really, really important to establish what your values are, but also your boundaries and your fears. And I tell my clients, and I speak about this on my Instagram channel all the time, when you share your values, boundaries, and fears, you may feel vulnerable. You may feel a bit exposed, but that's how you support each other in a partnership, is when you share these things and you learn how you can help each other, what your needs are, and in addition to that, real true intimacy comes from that vulnerability. And that's
Mhm.
really where the beauty in relationships come. And if you want to talk about the complexity of being an expat partnership, you need to be vulnerable and you need to communicate. There's a reason why there are statistics that show 49% more couples, expats, are getting divorced versus people who stay in their home cities, countries, whatever. And it's because there's such a layer of complexity and stress that's put on the couple and the partnership. If you're not communicating and if you're not vulnerable, it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in this and all the way, but you
Mm.
need to be able to open up to your partner and tell them, I'm really struggling with isolation right now. Let's go do something that allows us to connect or to meet other people. Or I'm scared that once we have our child, I'm really going to be struggling and I'm going to be unable to do anything, whatever it may be. You need to be able to communicate with your partner. The expat life just adds that extra layer of complexity there. So it's really, really
Mm.
important.
Makes sense. I mean, it's just a layer on top of something that you already said, which is also relevant. Like even inside a single country and single culture,
Yeah.
your background might be absolutely different, and therefore you were raised 100%. Everyone has been raised in a different way. It's not that you raise every kid is raised in the same way, so it's kind of literally impossible. So how your family raised you, how the environment that you grow up affects on the decisions
Yeah.
that you take. And on top of that, I suppose the complexity comes when cultures, so when these partners are culture from cultures that are very separated in methodologies, no, I assume.
Mm.
um what about the kids itself? Do you work with children also? Like, are they involved in the sessions at all? Not.
No, 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 no.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Uh, because something that I had, I mean, it's not related to the kids itself, but I'm assuming also parents talk about it. No, I heard these kind of things multiple times from this stigma myth about people saying, oh, expat kids are so resilient, or they are
Hmm.
like brilliant because they learn multiple languages at the same time.
Yeah.
I think you already busted the myth of like expat life being a flower and hippie flower and everything nice and beauty. Um, I don't think like kids are kids. No, the kids is
Yeah.
like it's
But
making them more resilient because of that. Is it something that you really see with the parents, or like I don't know?
yeah, I think you're onto something here. But I would take it one step further and say that the resilience in expat kids comes from the lifestyle of connecting with different places, and the feeling of home and being able to mold and to really just kind of be with whatever is. But I would also take it one step further and say the resilience of children is as malleable and flexible, and a bit the ability of it is only as strong as the communication between the parents.
Okay.
Because when you think about third culture kids, they need a firm foundation at home so they can continue to put themselves out there. So another way to look at it is our children are our mirror. They can feel whatever's going on, whether you want to admit it as a parent or not.
Mm.
So that the expat kid, the second culture or the third culture kids, that resilience can come from being held and that ability, um, to be able to mold and to be malleable and to connect with that feeling of home as a sensation. Um, but if the foundation's not strong, that's where that resilience will start to crumble. They really need that firm foundation at home to be able to allow them to feel safe to go out and continually put themselves out there.
Nice. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually. Like it. Maybe the last question before the we switch a little bit gears. I wanted to ask you also about the moment that you have a kid. No, you were saying like you were pregnant at the moment that you moved from Netherlands to Brussels.
Hmm.
Then you have a kid in Brussels. Do you and probably your clients are either in the process of getting kids or they already have them? Do you feel that these people maybe they were in this flexibility of life before, and then when they had the kid that grounded them into the place where they were at that moment of time? And do you think that this also affected their way of reacting to the fact of having of becoming parents, like the fact that until now maybe they were traveling around or
Mm,
thinking a little bit more on the nomads, but also the expats who, in the sense, I don't know, maybe they lived in 2 3 different countries and suddenly they have a responsibility that it's, I don't know, bringing the kid to school to have the, you know, like your
mm.
world changes so much that it puts you into a point in the map, no, probably, and grounds you there.
Yeah, I think this is personal. I can talk personally about my husband and I. My husband was very much of that mindset. Like, the kids need to stay in one place to grow up. That's just the way it is. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think we're their groundedness. Um, but this is very personal. I think it also connects to culture a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's risk averse or a risk taker. Um, and in addition to that, I would say that it can be there's an identity shift that happens when people become parents. People speak about it called matriescence and patriescence. And I think a lot of parents inherently feel this tug of there's a meme that exists that I absolutely adore that talks about, like before kids, this weekend we decided to just take a last minute trip to Africa, and then like after kids, and it's like you're just sitting there like, oh, I just want to go kind of thing. There's this tug, this grief that exists within parents in which we kind of miss a bit of that old life, which is a bit more maybe the nomad life or the ability to take a weekend trip at the last minute at the thing, whenever it happens to hit us or strike us to do so. So I think the answer to your question is that this is incredibly personal. And it also, talking about the other thing that I said, there are some people who a major boundary for them is not necessarily the children going to a different country or a different place, but like I personally, this is actually something my husband said, I do not want to move to another country where I have to learn another language. He speaks
Mm.
4 already, plus 2 dialects. And so things can get complicated. And I think as we get older as adults, not only are you comfortable with being this way in your field, but like having to learn a language from zero. I mean, if my husband were to have to learn German, for example, like the Latin languages are kind of what hold him. Um, but yeah, for some people, it's just not something they want to take on. So I think it's multifaceted. Maybe it's not just the kids that bring about this, but also what the parents' capacity could be, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. And I suppose also like the fact that a kid is taking also a lot of time. So maybe, I don't know, I don't know it's the case, but I put myself like your husband could be learning German without having without having a kid, because he would have the time to learn German. But when you have a
100%.
kid, you need to
Yeah.
have a dedication to that kid. So it's taking a lifetime from you for sure. Like
Yeah.
and free time.
Yeah. And then when you have more than one, that just
And
adds. Can't split yourself in two. So, yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
I hear you. Yeah.
nice. So yeah, before we jump into the cultural deep dive, and I prepared a little bit of what I call mini games and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I would like you to ask the top piece of advice that you would give expat parentings trying
Mm-hmm.
to raise kids abroad, or that they are planning to do their move while living abroad. What is I mean, free of charge
Yeah.
tip hack?
It's actually, it's going to sound simple, but it's actually harder than one thinks. I prepared two, which is the idea for all expats, and one for expat parents. So for all expats, I say curiosity is the bridge to understanding. There are so many things that are going to happen in your expat life that are going to just be baffling. Um, and instead of judging or thinking that something is backwards or whatever it may be, see it with curiosity through curious eyes or a beginner's mind, and that bridges so many positive benefits. Like someone seeing that you're curious instead of judging them, that just opens up a whole new door and a whole new possibility. So that is my go-to for all expats. I think that's very important to keep in mind, whether it be bureaucracy, people, work, cross-cultural communication, everything.
Nice.
For parents, I say communication is key. Really, you have to visit your values, boundaries, and fears regularly. And when I mean regularly, I mean like let's say quarterly. It's really important to kind of check in. And with that, I would say that setting up a time, one specific time every day, every week. And it doesn't mean that if you have something else that's happening that it has to happen, but that regularity is key to just check in with each other. How are you doing? What's going on? What are you struggling with? Is there anything you want to share with me? It's just so important to be able to create the space to have that communication. And your kids will thank you for that because they can see, they can feel that. I said before, your children are your mirror. Like they can sense when things are not in a good place.
Yeah. So it's not a communication between you only, but it's a communication and the reflection of this communication with your children at the end. Like, and having communication with the children also probably, like it's not only the parents communicating between them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's really important to how you live your life is also something that your children will see and model their own communication and their own, whether it be apologizing. I mean, I remember growing up in which parents never apologized. They were seen to be these perfect little beings that we were not supposed to ask, like why or whatever. And we were supposed to accept that they didn't apologize as normal. But like how you model yourself as a parent is how your children will be. And my kids, they know that we're not perfect and they know that sometimes we're going to say sorry because we're going to do or say the wrong thing. And it's such a beautiful way to show them that it's okay to make mistakes. Life is life and no one's perfect. And I think this is very much a part of the communication and understanding you and your partner and where you're at and how you want to be as parent.
Hey there, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Remember that the best way to stay tuned with the latest episodes of the podcast is by clicking on subscribe in YouTube and in your favorite audio platform. For extra content and information, follow, like, and comment on our social media and visit our website, expatexpertspodcast.com. Thank you for supporting our podcast, and let's continue with the episode. I would say that we jump into a little bit of fun. I prepared a couple of mini games to just chat and take it a little bit easy. No pressure, just for fun.
Okay.
Some cultural comparisons. I don't take everything don't take it as it needs to be the perfect response. The first one that I created, it's called Rank the Countries on Parenting Edition, let's say like this. And I grab some parenting categories, and I would like to know from your own experience, but also knowing that you probably have clients who are experts from all around the world. Where do you feel that country or region wise this is easier to be accomplished, let's say like this? So I will give you some categories or some scenarios, and you tell me if you think that there is any place in the world where you would put that. The first one, probably one of the biggest ones, is most child-friendly environment.
Denmark.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah, no, they're allowed to be kids. They're allowed to play and experiment from a very young age.
Nice. The other way around is easiest to adapt as a parent environment.
Oof. I would say probably. Maybe I would say my guess would be India here, because you have a lot of support from your family. Families often live in close by, and this is a caveat, but also somewhat connected to what you said. Parents are expected to note everything when their child is born, which is hard if you think about it, but it's honestly, up until this current generation, not really questioned so much. And children don't defy that. They don't speak back. They don't, you know what I mean? So that's why I say it's hard to think about that. Like when I hear that you're expected to know everything, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. But if you understand the idea that most of them in the past didn't really push back because of that, like almost kind of like there's this deity there, you can see how it's actually easier to fit into that role versus the struggle that potentially could come from it. So, yeah, kind of a mixed answer, but yeah.
All good, all good. That's exactly why I do these things. So it comes
Yeah.
answers that are not as easy as it will come with our conversation. And hardest school systems to figure out.
From my experience, I would say South Korea. Kids go to school from 8 in the morning to 3 p.m. Then after that, they go to extra school from 3 p.m. until dinner time, after dinner time, and they go to school on top of go to school on top of go to school. So their school systems are known to be really great, but they continue to go to school after because they want to do really well. So if you want to say the hardest school system to figure out, maybe the school system could be doing more, or helping to challenge them in different ways. I would question why we need to keep going to all these different schools. They call them hagwons, which are like tutoring centers. So yeah, I would say it's the hardest one to figure out because there's such a pressure there and demands for people to do better and really such pressure on kids. So yeah.
Nice. Best work-life balance for the parents.
Spain? That would be
Okay.
my guess. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I come from the country of one of the worst work-life balances. So I think most European countries have a really great work-life balance. For example, Germany, parents are able to take time off in summertime and spend time with their kids. In Belgium, you're able to take parental leave in summertime with most organizations. But what I see in from a lot of people that I work with in Spain is that it almost is like life is a bit more relaxed. So there's not necessarily that pressure to have to take time off. Um, also say this with the caveat of not having lived there, and this is just
Mm,
through the experiences of clients and friends who live there. But that would be my first instinct.
nice. What about most family-friendly public spaces?
Nordics, parts of Germany, and I would say the Netherlands.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the last one of this one would be best healthcare for families.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Belgium. There's an amazing healthcare system there.
Okay,
The taxes are high to support that, but in the same essence, it's really, really well done.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So jumping to the second game that I will propose to you today, I call it rapid fire. And it's a bit of like trying to see where the world is going based on your experience and based on who you talk with. So basically, I just give you two options, and you tell me if you believe that the world of parenting, or I mean, this is very difficult because I suppose everyone does what they can in very different ways, but if you see more of one or the other.
Okay.
Uh, the first one that I have, it's structure routines or go with the flow
Go with
parenting.
the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go with the flow.
Helicopter parenting or free range?
Free range,
Really?
for
Okay.
sure.
I
Yeah.
would say the opposite. Like, that's funny, but it's nice. I mean, like,
I
I,
think
I
if you
s-
control everything, you don't allow your child to be able to learn it on their own. And there's a whole entire idea called the growth mindset because kids, if people continue to do things for them, which is kind of what helicopter parenting is, right?
Mhm.
Then the children get frustrated, and instead of trying, they will go automatically to their parent or someone else to do it. And this frustration will grow, and that's a part of being a kid is having dealing with that frustration and trying to learn. So yeah, absolutely not helicopter parenting, in my opinion.
No, no, not that you should doing, but that the world is going that direction somehow. Like that the parents are behaving like it. I don't know. Huh?
Mm, I don't know. I would say that there are lots of the current generation, they're wanting to do things differently than they were parented. So I would say that things are changing.
Mm.
Um, and both of the questions that you asked, things are changing more in that direction. Would it be
You're saying,
like 51-49?
yeah, it would be a
Things
close call. No,
are
no.
changing, but not that rapidly.
Cool. What about strict bedtimes or whenever they are tired?
For the large majority of the world, it's more strict bedtimes. If it's not summer, more strict bedtimes. Yeah.
Local schools or international schools?
For expats or
In this case, yeah, I mean, it's your turf of expertise, I suppose, no?
I would say more local schools.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Very few expats have the capacity to afford international schools unless their organizations are paying for it.
Mm,
And if a family is looking to get the real experience of a place, a local school is better. And your children learn the language faster and they make friends with locals faster and you just fit in much faster. So the majority of people that I know, whether it's here in Brussels or the people that I work with, 70% send their kids to the local schools.
nice.
Yeah.
Co-sleeping or own room from day one?
Own room from day one. I would say that when the babies are really, really young, that they usually stay inside the room because they can smell mom, especially those first few months.
Mm,
But after, let's say, 6 months, most people put them into their own room. I don't know. I would say maybe 35 to 40% co-sleep. And for a lot of people, that just disrupts their sleep too much as parents, and it's not the easy feat. Yeah.
what about screen time? Being strict limits or flexibility?
Depends on the circumstance. What I'm seeing more these days is that screens are showing up with flexibility in the spaces in which kids are not allowed to be kids.
Mm.
That's really the best way to answer that. Um, but does everyone give their kids screens all the time with open possibility? No. So that's why I say it really depends.
Nice. And maybe the last one, um, academical pressure is normal to have it, or is it problematic? Of
To a certain extent, I think it's normal, with healthy way of encouraging, you know. Um, so yeah, that would be my very short answer on that. I think this is cultural, and also has an element of family in it as well. Like I was saying before, South Korea, huge pressure for kids to perform, and that comes from their history of their country, from a lot of different things. So there are different factors here, but for me, I would say it's normal to have some pressure, and it's done in a healthy way.
nice. So, jumping to one of the last sections of the episode today and looking a little bit on the time, I asked the audience that I was going to interview you, so I shared your social media, a little bit of your profile, and I got one question from Nina Floa. I suppose I pronounced that properly. Uh, hopefully, butchering surnames, I suppose. What's the one cultural practice that you grabbed from abroad and kept in your parenting style?
What's the one cultural practice that I adapted from abroad and kept in my parenting style? Hmm.
If any.
Yeah. I'm sure there's something out there. I'm just trying to grasp it. Um, so I think the one that I grew up in a house in which things were very controlled. And one thing that I really love about a lot of Northern European countries is the idea that you allow children to try and to get messy and to really explore on their own. And I really love this idea. And there's an internal battle that happens inside of me sometimes when I see it happening. But at the same time, there's such childhood magic in those moments. And so if I can just be present with the uncomfortability while it's happening, it really is beautiful to see their excitement and the discovery and all of that. So yeah, that would be my first instinct to say.
Nice. I mean, I suppose it might be difficult because of this kind of the parents are. I mean, it's. I think it's kind of natural, not that you're protective with your children.
Hmm.
It's part of our nature and animal nature. Actually, I would say, like even
Yeah.
from when you see animals treating their cubs like that. So yeah,
The thing is
it's
it becomes problematic when protecting kids is holding kids back from, for example, just getting dirty. Like they're not hurting themselves if they get dirty.
yeah,
I was not raised in that way, but like if you think about it, like the Nordic saying, like there's no such thing as bad weather, there's only such thing as bad clothes. That is a genius phrase. Genius. But if you approach a Southern European and you tell them to tell their kids to go jump in puddles, most of them would be like, no, I don't want my kid to get dirty. And so that's why I say like there's a caveat there, like when it becomes like safety or is it cleanliness? Like is it the way in which we were raised, or is it really just allowing us to expand our capacity outside of what we're comfortable with, you know? So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
nice. So yeah, Angela, I would like to give you the opportunity to share. I mean, we already talked a little bit about Expat Parenting Collective, but maybe if you have any specific, I don't know, program workshop coming on, or that's something that you are working on right now, and also where, especially where people can connect with you and where they can find you. I think that's
Yeah.
important for the listeners.
Yeah, so last month we had our first retreat in Corfu, Greece, which we're super proud of.
Okay.
And we also have our first cohort of the Empowered Expat Parent that's that started actually last week. In addition to that, this month we also have a workshop on parenting third culture kids mindfully. So we're really excited about bringing forth that workshop. The ways that you can get in touch with me, my website is the Expat Parenting Collective, so expatparentingcollective.com. You can find me on Instagram, Expat Parenting Collective. Same thing with Facebook. And LinkedIn would be my first name, Angela, my last name, Vitiello, and then MBA MSED. My name is very popular in the south of Italy, so that's the qualifier at the end, which makes me who I am on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that runs the gamut of where you can find me and how you can get a hold of me.
Cool. I mean, definitely, like for all the listeners who are interested, and of course for the expat parents who are out there, but also the ones who maybe are considering it, where to find Angela. Of course, as always, the links are in the description of the episode, so you can always go through there. To wrap up a little bit, we always love to, if you have any for the last minutes, funny, surprising, I don't know, even slightly embarrassing story living abroad, something that to wrap up and close the episode for today.
Yeah, to wrap up, I would say that the advice I would give to any expats is to continue to travel alone, to try new things, and to make friends. One amazing story that I have from my travels was in Catania, where a friend and I were leaving language school, and we decided to go take a walk of the city. And we walked into a bakery, and they just finished making some almond cookies, some warm, amazing smelling almond cookies. And just the experience of being curious and trying something new in that moment. We tried the cookies at the same exact time, and both my friend and I were like, oh, buonissimo. It's just so amazing, this cookie. And that not only warmed up the heart of the person that owned the shop that offered us this cookie, but at the same time, it's those moments of connection and curiosity and kindness. And it's the beauty of being an expat and really being able to travel the world and enjoy all of the positive sides of being an expat. So, yeah, show up with curiosity, do things that you are interested in, and I think the world will open up its doors in so many ways for us and our children.
Very nice. It's a nice close up. So, Angela, thank you so much for sharing your story, but also the work that you do, and a little bit of advice for everyone who is out there listening. So, thanks a lot for joining us today. To the audience, of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, but also check out the Instagram, social media, and website of Angela, and also subscribe and follow her. Share this episode if you enjoy it to other expat parents and other expats. Until then, keep exploring, stay curious, and see you in the next episode of Expat Experts.